Relax. It's ASMR. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this series where I am exploring the new world to me, of 3D printing. And my 3D printer is still being built. It's on order. I don't have it here yet, but I am preparing for its arrival. And I've shot 2 videos in this series, one kind of explaining what 3D printing is, the other one showing me setting up the area where I'm going to be housing the 3D printer, running electricity to the closet. So if you want to go check out those, kind of get yourself caught up. In this video, I'm going to talk about the software that I'm using to create objects that can then be printed in 3D. So the software that I use runs on my iPad, which I really love. It kind of gives me a little bit of mobility when it comes to where I want to work. So I've gone out on the back porch and I've enjoyed the spring breezes, although it's not spring now. But back when it was spring, I enjoyed being able to just kind of sit out there and tinker around with this software. And I'm still learning it, so I am in no wise an expert, but I'm learning how to get around in it and do some things. So I'm going to launch the software here. It is called Shaper 3D. And you can see I've got some projects that I've been working on and some tutorials that I have done teaching myself how to use it. So first off, I want to just kind of start with a blank slate, kind of show you generally the principles of how it works. And then I want to show you an object that I have created, and then I want to kind of get into showing you a new object that I need to start to design and kind of start that process. So let's tap here and say new design, and we have a 3D space here, and we can use our finger to navigate around, kind of zoom in and zoom out. And we also have a cube up here in the corner that helps us navigate around the space as well. And here we have these tools on the side. And what I want to do is we're going to start by just drawing a circle. So I tap the circle, and then I tap where I want the center of the circle to be, and I drag out till I have a circle. Pretty basic there. And everything is being drawn on this flat plane here on the y-axis and the x-axis. So now I have a circle that's laying on this plane, and if I select it, you can see I have this little arrow going up and down. And if I pull up on the arrow, it extrudes that shape out into 3D space. So now, as you can see, it is a 3D object, which is pretty cool. Let me undo that. Now if I also put another circle inside of it like that, now when I extrude it up, you can see that it cuts out that circle. So we can start to get some more complex ideas. So I can select this circle. Right now it has a radius of 3 millimeters. I can click on that. And let's say I only want it to be 1.5. Much better. Now I can drag the middle of it kind of line it up right here with this axis. This little button right here is the duplicate button. I can select it, and then I can drag a duplicate. And as long as that little button is highlighted, I can continue to drag copies of it around. So now I can extrude up, and I have 4 holes in my object. And I can do the same thing here. I can say I want this to be 4 millimeters tall. So I can really start to dial in exactly the sizes that I want things to be. Let me zoom in here on this edge. And if I select the edge, I get this other arrow. And I can round off or scoop out the edges. And I can do that for most of the edges here. So if I wanted to like countersink a screw, I can do that. And I have it at negative 0.6 millimeters. So I can either drag it till I read that little tag there with the number, or I can type it -6. Let me tap off of here. -6. So we can change then all different types of aspects of that. And we start to refine our shape down into what we want it to be. So that is kind of just a very, very basic overview. There are all types of shapes that you can draw. You can draw lines. Like that. You can draw, let's see. Let me undo that. I want the spline. So I can start to draw. So you can make curving sections. Start to really refine some pretty awesome shapes. And everything still applies. I can extrude it out. So let's get rid of that. And we're going to move on. I'm going to show you a piece that I have already worked on. And this is a piece that I created for my desk that I'm sitting on right now. Right above me, right off camera here, is a metal frame that holds my camera. And it's made out of copper pipe. And I have it attached to this wooden table by some just fittings that I picked up at Lowe's. And it's not an exact fit. I had to kind of file down the copper pipe a little bit, and it works, but it's not very stable. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to create little feet for the bottom of my camera stand that I can drill into the wood. And then this is the exact diameter of the copper pipe. So it should fit down nicely inside of here, and it's plenty tall so that there will be plenty of stability. So I won't need to necessarily glue this in or fix it in or anything. The height of this should be enough to keep the camera stand from falling over. At least that's the theory. And you can see I've left places for the screw holes. and it's kind of just carved out here where it can go. And then it doesn't pop all the way through. I wanted the pipe to be able to be sitting inside of this shape. And I've kind of faceted off this edge just to give it a little bit of refinement. And you can see here it's rounded on the corner, but flat on the bottom where it's going to be sitting against the table. This is kind of the first shape that I made, and it's basically, you can see cylinders extruded through and poking through another cylinder, and then I just raised up and kept extruding, and then I used that same rounding tool, and I just kind of rounded this area here and worked from there. So nothing super complicated, but I'm hoping that it is very useful, and it should be fairly simple to print in 3D. So I'm hoping that that is a good first step for me. So now, what is the new thing that I need to create? Well, my wife is a Montessori teacher, and kids are now learning from home, and so she is making different little kits and packets that parents can buy, or kind of buy from Amazon or buy from her or something. I'm not sure exactly what. But one of them is a physics experiment with some ball bearings and this spring-loaded plunger like you would see on a pinball machine. And they want to be able to pull it back a certain amount and then let it go and see how far the ball travels when you do that. Well, the problem is this is very hard to hold, especially for someone in elementary school, because they want it to be very precise and let it go like just a little bit or a whole lot. And so there's so many factors in this that we need to keep this still without having a huge big apparatus that the parents need to get to hold this in place. So I drew a very rough sketch, thinking that if we could take 2 pieces of board or lumber, and that the student could kneel, put one knee on this one and one knee on the other one, and that would give them stability to be able to pull this back and shoot it across the floor. But this also needs to sit pretty close to the floor. You can see here, something like that, so that it will contact the marble. It can't be too high up, it'll hit the top of the marble or miss it. So it needs to sit like this. So this was my plan, to 3D print a little enclosure that could be screwed down to 2 small boards and hold this where it needs to be at the right level off the floor, which is pretty much basically on the floor. So this is my rough prototype. I need to do some measuring before I can really get into it. And that is where this tool comes in. It is a caliper. And I've purchased this specifically for my adventures in 3D printing. So some of you may be very familiar with this. It basically, let me flip this over so that it's not as distracting. There we go. So turn it on here. And we can see that this digital display changes and measures the distance here. It also measures the distance here. And if you put it there, it goes to 0. This helps give you some very precise measurements of very small pieces. It's what I used to start the measurement for the holder that I just made that I showed you. And so what we need to measure is the diameter of this, so we have some sort of standard to go off of. So I put it right here at the very edge, and it looks like it is about 38.76 millimeters. So let me write that down. Start to sketch out my circle. 38.7 millimeters is the diameter of it. And we're going to add a little thickness here. And so now we need to measure. This is 5. Make sure I get it right here. What they say is measure twice. 5.4, 5.10, 5.09. So let's just say 5.10 millimeters. And then these screw holes look to be equidistant around. And they're almost too small to even use this tool here. Okay, there I got it in there now. And that says 4.10, 4.11, 4.18, 4.20, it keeps changing, 4.30. Okay, let's say 4.35, that sounds good. 4.35 millimeters. And then those are just spaced out equidistant. So what I want to do is create a shape that this can start to fit into. And this needs to also fit into it to give it some stability. So let's draw this from the side. Like that. Now we can measure this here. And that says 15.69, 15.75, 15.75. Okay. So this is 15.75. Like this. And then we want to measure the height of this, and for that we have this little thing on the end which sticks out. So I can put that right on the edge, touch it to the surface, and then we can read 14.79. 14.79. Okay. So now this at least starts to give us a basic understanding. I'm going to put that up where I can see it. as I start to create something new. Okay, so we're going to start a new design. And since our first shape was a circle, that's what we are going to start with. And what we want is 38.7 millimeters, but that was the diameter. We need to find out the radius. Somewhere on here I have a calculator. So open up my calculator here. Clear. And so we need to go 38.7 divided by 2 equals 19.35. So we start with our circle. We drag it out. And then we say 19.35. So now we have our circle that matches this here. So the next thing we need to do is drag it up. And we said that that was 5.10. 5.1. Okay. But we should probably put our circles in here first. So to do that, let's tap on our top here. And that's going to bring us, we've just kind of rotated the camera, so now we're looking straight down on top of the circle. We want to draw another circle. And the diameter of that is 4.35. Clear, clear. 4.35 divided by 2, 2.175. Okay. Now we also need to see this. Move this here. How far away this is here from the edge. So we can just slip that in there, close it down, and it says it is 3.6 millimeters. So we can draw a line, just a regular line. Zoom in here. Move this up so you can see it. .6, and now we can move that so it's just barely touching that line. Then we can select this one and get rid of it. So now, like we showed before, we can hit this duplicate button. We can drag this. We can drag this. Those aren't exactly where they need to be, but we've now had it generally in good position. Oops. We still have our copy on. Okay. I will get more precise with this when I actually finish this up. But this should be pretty close. I know there is a way to measure these equidistant. Let's see. If we do an equilateral triangle, we should be able to do that. It says to draw from the center. Okay, so that's touching that. And we get that to touch that, and that to touch that. Then we can delete that. We don't need these lines anymore. And here we have our 3 circles that should be exactly where we need them to be. So now we can extrude. And we said that this was 5.1. Now, we have the secondary collar that comes off of here. So let's go to our top view again. And we're going to draw another circle. And this was 15.75. So once again, we go 15.75 divided by 2, 7.875. $7.875. Okay. We have 2 circles. Why do we have 2 circles here? Oh, it's drawing on the bottom, but that's okay. Okay, 7.875. This inner circle, I'm not sure. Oops. Delete. Okay, 7.875. That shows where we need to be. So let's go to the front. We want to select this and if we move it up, it's going to want to cut a hole into the shape, which is not what we want. We want to drag it so that it is like that. If it's coming off the bottom, I guess that's fine. It doesn't really matter. And we said that this was 14.79. And it's upside down, which I don't really like. So double tap it. We'll select the whole thing. And then we should be able to rotate it. We want to rotate it 180. There we go. And then we'll just undo that, redo that. Okay. Then we'll just lift the whole thing up like that. And you can see that we still have our original drawings here, these 2D circles. And we can turn those off in the Layers panel. because we don't need to see them anymore. It didn't seem to rotate like I wanted it to. This is from the front. Oh no. Yeah, and here's from the top. Okay, we're good. Sorry. So this is the shape of this little collar, which will help us as we build around the rest of the shape. So that will be for another video. I'm going to test out how this new setup works. You can see I have my iPad connected to my computer. I'm recording the screen of my iMac. I want to see how that integrates with this top-down camera view that I have right now. So there's been a few stops and starts already, but I want to make sure that it's a nice video for you all. And I want to kind of plan out my next steps for how I'm going to design this piece. But I thought this would be a really good introduction of how you can start to build shapes that you can then 3D print. And there's a whole lot of other factors that go into making sure that the 3D print object that you're making is actually printable. And I'm learning that as well. So this kind of catches you up to where I am in the process, continuing to learn baby steps. There is no way I'm an expert yet, and I do not claim to be an expert. We are exploring this together. So thank you for watching. I hope that you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me some feedback in the comments. Let me know what you think. What would be some neat objects to print? Do you think I should maybe try out to create here? Nothing super complicated yet. I have my own list of things I'm working through that I want to design. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. And then you can follow along in this adventure. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.